Okay, that should be better. There we go. I can see chat and everybody is here, hopefully, or we'll be here getting on board. I've got Peachy, the wing cat, right next to me. There you go. What's going on, Peachy? You are doing a great job as the Astro apprentice, I have to say. Really great job. Your performance yesterday was beguiling, very beguiling. Yeah. You're such a good girl, aren't you? As you can tell, I've become quite fond of my new cat because she's quirky. I like quirky. Quirky's interesting. Quirky and eccentric are interesting. All right, who do we have here? Let's see. We got DJ MC. What's going on, Michael? Meow meow kitty poop. Today is the first day of the rest of your knives. I agree with you. Liddy Lou, what's happening? Red Pill. 78. GF. Hey, did you get married? Or is that going down in September? What's happening with you? Road trip 1981. Good morning. My mother, I give you the mother update. She's doing much better. Much, much better. Having clear, cogent, coherent conversations, I think that's always a good sign that somebody's kind of on the rebound. So I'm happy for her about that. Thank you for asking. The whimsical one is here. Good morning to you. Mary Lee. Hi, Mary Lee. Diane, thank you for the kind wishes. Yes. Gucci to go. GDG, what's happening, Jake? Good to see you. Flat Earth Hippie, checking in. Ghost right through the cemetery. I'm here for the cats. I know. That's what people say. They come for the astrology, but they stay for the cats. Speaking of cats, come on up here. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Claim your throne. Claim your throne. Because you know she's nudging her way in here. You know that's happening. She's figured out what's going on here. So if you're gonna be the alpha, oh look, she's licking you on the way over. Isn't that nice of her? You could give two shits. Come on, let's go. There we go. The Astro Cat is here. Come on. Come on. There he is. Astro Cat sighting. Jasper, there's your pals. Here's your buddies. Oh, look at him. He's in bliss. Yeah, you've just eaten. You've just taken a shit. Life's good, right? Life is really good. Okay, who else do we have? Holly Beth from Cambodia. Hot Cambodia. Holly Beth, are you having a holiday in Cambodia? Just asking. Helena Subas here. Good morning to you. Miss Nikki. September, but it's hurricane season here, and we weren't thinking we'll be booking again. Okay, well, look good, but let's see if we can find a backup. Lynn Stolz, good to see you, Lynn. Catherine Kramer, double K. Cece, the fantastic one, she's here. Lunchbox 81, my man Thor at the door. Lori Camacho. What's going on, Lori? Coming in all the way from SoCal. Claire Kelly B. Let's see, anybody else? Haha, it's a working holiday. Well, good. Working holiday is good. And we got Third Eye activated. What's happening, Marge? Hey, welcome back. Deborah Wheeler. Grateful Dogs. Did you hear that? There's Grateful Dogs here. I think we're all present and accounted for. There's my man, Tomas. Morning, Tomas. All right, why don't we get into it? Let's do the Astro Weather. Got a great start of the day today. I'm excited. I'm excited. You know why I'm excited? Because the chart really, the chart really cooks. Let's just put it that way. It's like, oh yeah, that's what astrology is about. That's what astrology is about. You can just see it. It's all over the chart. Okay, here we go. Speaking of all over the chart, We're still in grand trine territory. Now the moon has moved off of that south node. That was an really interesting transit yesterday with the moon on the south node. And, it's, how do I say this? If you're engaged in certain activities or engaged in certain occupations, sometimes these transits can be very powerful and really, really kind of boost your activity. So one of the things that I do is I do coaching, and I have a couple of coaching clients. If you go to my website, I have a option there called Astro Coach. And yesterday had a really great session with a client, and with that moon on the south node kicking in the grand trine, I felt like we made a lot of really good progress, and it was easy, right? That's what happens when you get into a grand trine. You can, especially with that moon in the conjunction with the south node and dealing with Saturn and repatterning, and the trine with the sun and Mercury and Juno. It was like when there are moments like that, you can really push things a little bit, right? But it doesn't take much effort, because when you're dealing with the grand trine, especially with water, it's all about flow. And of course, there's some other things going on there. But today, there's other things going on with the Mercury square. So today would not be a day where, I might push things, because there'd be some resistance. And it's with the Venus square, Mars square, right? With the moon, that's transitory, because the moon will move out of the orb. So by tonight, that moon is beginning to move into Sagittarian territory. Tomorrow it'll be in Sagittarian territory, and tomorrow it'll have a much more harmonic relationship with Venus and Mars and Pallas. And there can be a great deal of passion in the air tomorrow. Look for impassioned beliefs to be shared at high volume. But we're still in the grand trine, and I think you can still make, I would say, good/deeper changes. But I would say this, that they're more about you than perhaps others, or tapping into what I would call a more universal space with the moon on that south node, because everybody's sharing that south node aspect simultaneously, right? Now it's off of it. It becomes a bit more, I'd say, personal. We're still in the squares here with Neptune, but again, beginning to separate and move out. So the sun is really at the kind of the far tip. It's at 10, so it's out of the orb. Mercury's still there. I think with the Mercury Neptune square, you do have to be. Here's what I would say: use the Mercury Jupiter sextile to be enthusiastic and build things up, versus the Mercury Neptune square, which I think could tear things down a little bit. Right? I mean, the Mercury Neptune square is, generally I associate that square with prevaricators, but sometimes it's not as cut and dry. Sometimes it's just dealing with sensitivity. So I think today is one of those pat on the back days versus a kick in the ass day, especially with the moon square to Venus and Mars. So pat on the back versus kick in the ass. That's a better strategy all around. Uranus is moving into more of that trine with Pluto. That's very interesting. Keep your eyes on the cryptos, particularly Bitcoin. I talked about that on Saturday during the webinar, and I said, watch out for Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin goes on a big run, then there's a very good chance we're entering into a massive pump and dump, and it would be the trigger event for trying, and trying is the operative word, to get people into the the digital currency, right? The central bank digital currency. So they need the carrot. And I think we can see the run up with Bitcoin as the carrot here. Always the issue with Bitcoin and cryptos is the off ramp, and they're making it a bit more difficult for people to exit those transactions. We also have Jupiter in square with Pluto. So if you're going to invest, only invest what you can afford to invest. I think that would be a pretty good bit of advice for just about everybody. But I think there is some value in investing right now. Like this could be a very quick 48-hour cycle, you know, between now and the end of business day tomorrow. That's actually 24, maybe Saturday, since the markets on the digital side of things are always open. They're like 7-Eleven, they're always open. But I think this could be a really good microcycle. You could go in and let's say you had, I don't know, a couple of grand that you wanted to throw in. There's a chance that you could come out of there with, you know, maybe not doubling your money, but you might pick up $1,000. Or let's say you were really bold. Yeah, I'll go 10 grand. You might come out of there with about 2.5 or 3 grand. And that's a pretty quick and easy money. And I feel like we're kind of in that cycle right now. And I think it pretty much lasts about, I would say, 48 hours. Mercury comes in and starts to become a part of that energy as well. So interesting. Mercury's already there at 5, Jupiter's at 4. So we got about another 4 or 5 degrees in Cancer. You know, one of the things, again, that I gleaned from the webinar over the weekend is that the Jupiter and Taurus cycles are really good for the elites. Really, really good. Like taking the cream off the top. But one of the things that Jupiter cycles also do is they initiate prosperity downstream. But in most cases, it takes upwards of 5 to 6 years. So if we were to play out that Jupiter cycle, that would be, we'd have 1 year in Gemini, 2 years in Cancer, 3 years Leo, probably around 4 years in Virgo. And that's where the downstream cycle would hit, right? That would be sort of the plebes or the proles. They would get some of the benefits off of the Jupiter cycle. That's what I've seen. That's what I've seen. And it sort of peaks in Scorpio about 6 years out. And then eventually it comes back and it's back in the down cycle. So Jupiter cycles are always working. You know, we had a Jupiter cycle in Aries last, right? And that's a 10-year cycle too. And so that initiates a 10-year period for all things Aries. And so all these things can be happening simultaneously. It's not like, okay, we closed the door on Aries and now we're moving on to Taurus. Well, for the most part, that's true. But remember, these are 10-year, 12-year cycles. My bad, they're 12-year cycles with Jupiter. And that's, so and the reason I said 10, because it seems like it's 10 when it comes to some sort of fruition, right? And I guess that makes sense because, you know, once it gets past the 10-year cycle, it goes into the 11th year cycle, which puts it really in a balsamic mode. And so there's more of a kind of a letting go with Jupiter as it sets and resets its position. Oh, Peachy, you are so awkward. You are so awkward. You don't get on the computer. You're like a little kid. I have to tell you not to do certain things. No, the computer is not your place. You can be over here on the fabric mountain. Okay. I think that's not a lot of air in the day. So, I mean, I think there's meteorological ramifications that the heat dome might still be settling over us without a lot of air, breeze, circulation, but also air is perspective, air is objectivity. So keep that in mind. It's hard for people to be objective today, locked in with all this water and the intensity of all the fire. I didn't talk about the fire very much, but it's there, right? There's the potential for a lot of fiery emotional exchange, passionate, impassioned exchange. which, hey, it's not always bad. It's not always bad. Sometimes it can be good. Sometimes you can get things off your chest. Just be sure that you don't burn the playhouse down. All right. Let's talk about our star of the day. I'm excited about our star of the day. Today's star of the day is none other than the supremely talented and enigmatic Kawhi Leonard. Now, Kawhi Leonard has won 2 NBA championships. He was the most valuable player in the last NBA championship that he won as a Toronto Raptor. And one of the things that Kawhi Leonard is known for is not speaking. You would think that with Mercury on his midheaven, that he would be verbose. He is not. Kawhi Leonard should probably be a poker player because he never, ever, ever strays from being a man of few words. And you can see that up here at the top of the chart, even though he has Mercury here. He also has Chiron on the other side of it, and then the South Node over here. So it's interesting because with Mercury prominent on his midheaven, he's known for being quiet. I mean, isn't that interesting? I mean, you would think like, oh yeah, this is somebody who, communicates and writes and talks, and that's not really true. But it's kind of the reverse Mercury effect, and Chiron makes him, I think, quite self-conscious of how he speaks or what he says. And he had a very difficult time for a while there in San Antonio. And eventually he got traded to the Toronto Raptors. And that is a really ninth house experience. He went to the Raptors. He probably should have stayed with the Raptors, to be honest with you. I'm just saying. He would have had numerous titles. He could have cemented his legacy as one of the greats of the NBA. But what did he do? He decided to go back home to LA because that's where he's from, and play for the Los Angeles Clippers. And he has not really lived up to his contract for a number of reasons. And one of the things about Kawhi that is infuriating is that he takes a lot of time off, right? So you can see this with the seesaw chart, right? He's working and playing, he's taking time off. He's working and playing, he's taking time off. He took an entire season off from the San Antonio Spurs because of a quad injury, and the Spurs were accusing him of kind of dogging it. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know he wanted out. And then eventually the whole thing kind of spun out of control, and he wound up getting traded to Toronto. But if you're looking for an athletic sort of instructional around how a chart works in terms of this whole sort of seesaw configuration, it's Kawhi Leonard. He's a prodigious athlete. He has Venus, Mars, Jupiter. They're all in Leo, all in the 10th house. So his skills are on display. I mean, he's, when he's on, Kawhi is probably one of the best in the game. But I just can't, separate him from this zigzag. And he has these weird inconjuncts as well, like Saturn in conjunct his sun. And the thing about Kawhi that really sets his chart off is when he was young, he had his father owned a car wash. Where was that? Was it San Bernardino or one of those towns outside of LA? And his father was murdered at the car wash that he actually owned, which I think made a huge impression in a very kind of dark way on Kawhi. And again, so that's the inconjunct with Saturn. This is the father down here. And he wound up being raised by his uncle, Dennis, which in a lot of ways has a lot to do with the third house and extended family. So we have the true node down here in Capricorn. And again, this is coming out of, because uncles and cousins and nephews and nieces can all be third house. What they are is they're an extension of siblings. So I would say that you can see the influence of his uncle Dennis here, because Capricorn is also ruled by Saturn. It's also the father, right? And I would say the hard part for Kawhi is that he was part of a family that was intact, right? And you can see how they were intact. The Saturn and the moon together, and then his father gets wiped out. And I think that was a huge, huge deal in his life. And also in terms of emotion, you can see how he would be very detached and even remote with the moon Saturn conjunction, right? Detached and remote. You're not going to get into Kawhi world unless you really spend time with him. The other thing about Kawhi that's interesting is that he's known as being notoriously cheap. So unfortunately, he conforms to that Cancerian standard, let's just say, of being thrifty. And there is a famous story. It was not famous, but kind of slightly infamous, where he's actually in New Jersey, of all places, because that's where his uncle Dennis lives. And they go to a place where they've got burgers, right? And Kawhi has to pay. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy that's a millionaire like 20 times over. And they go to a place with burgers, and he had to pay $9.95 for a burger. And he looked at his uncle. He said, I could get 3 of these for this price in San Antonio. There you go. That's Kawhi. This is not a dude that's going to go broke. I can tell you that right now. It's a very interesting chart. And his nickname is the Claw. The Claw, because of the size of his hands. The guy's got massive hands. And so they're so big, his hands are so big, they actually commemorated his hands. I'll show you. Now, I don't think his hand is actually this big, but it may not be that far off. This was, I think it was from the New York Times. New York Times did a thing on his hand. It's a kind of an art piece. And I think it's really indicative of being a Cancer, right? Because with the crab, there's always going to be one claw bigger than the other. And that happens to be his nickname. So if there's anybody who's really Cancerian, who lives up to the moniker and the nickname of the sign itself, it's Kawhi Leonard, your star of the day. All right. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to go over to 15 Minutes of Flame after this, as I whip my show together. What is that? What that is. What else do I want to tell you? Oh, my buddy Chris, he's got a big sale going on. So I have to fire this up here. And I think it'll be okay. I think you'll be able to do this. Let's see what here we got here. So I can copy this thing. And give me 1 second here as I send this to myself. And so if you really wanted to like score heavily on some CBD, this is your weekend right here. It's your weekend. I'm going to show you how you do it. And I think you might even be able to get your goodie bag too. Think about that. You get the goodies and you get the new. So let's go. Let's roll this thing out. Here we go. Pull this up. So check this out. Your screen sharing is paused. Why? Why the fuck is my screen sharing paused? No, you don't want to pause my screen sharing. That's not how it works. I tell you what to do. I tell you what to do, technology. You don't tell me what to do. I command you. All right, hold on. Here we go. Let's get rid of this. Let's try one more time, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we go. There it is right there. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, here, that's it. That's what we want. So you get 20% off full retail price. There's your code, J4. Put in J4. We only have 2 sales a year, and this is one of them. 20% off all your product. I think maybe if you leave him a note, tell him you came from Robert Phoenix, he might give you some goodie stuff too. All right. So go on over to truehempscience.com. Sale runs from Saturday, July 1st to July 4th at midnight. All price 20% off. The BAS is it's kind of like MMS, right? It's got the same kind of healing properties, purifying, cleansing, really good stuff. You get 33% off the BAS. Okay. So there you go. I don't know if you'll be able to jump in early. Maybe we'll see. We're really close to July 1st anyway. So get on over to True Ham Science and avail yourself of a 2 times a year sale, and you'll save a lot. If you get $100 worth of product, which is easy to do, you've already saved $20. So you may as well get a little more, so you can save a little more. Take that $20 and put it back into your order. See how that works? All right. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart, 2 what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Feel free to go to my website, robertphoenix.com. If you're interested in booking a session with me, I am still doing sessions and working with people. And have yourself a wonderful and blessed day. Bye for now.